right, so we got Doug Makofka here today with us.
Yay!
You are an all-around amazing musician. Tell me about your background. Like, how did you get so good?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure in the scheme of things that is completely accurate.
No, come on. You ask yourself that same question in the mirror every day, don't you?
Yeah, I'm not happy with the answer.
Oh, come on.
Come on. Well, I mean, I've been playing something or another for quite a while. I think I was doing piano lessons in kindergarten, which isn't that unusual. But then we moved, and my dad said, how would you like to play accordion? I said, all right, why not? And so I've been playing accordion for a long time.
And you played that because you wanted to get the ladies, right?
No, that was my, actually, that was my, my accordion teacher mentor from New York, who that's his story. He was like a prodigy piano player, and he said that, you know, he'd sit down and play the piano, and all the aunts and uncles were there, and they'd pat him on the head and tell him he did a good job. And then his uncles would take the accordions out, and all hell would break loose, and he'd say, I want to do that. So,
the accordion was the bad boy
yeah,
instrument.
that wasn't quite my,
instrument.
yeah, no, I think after like 1958, that whole vibe just sort of like, you know, nobody wanted me to show up with my accordion at the pool party.
Aww. You can come to my pool party and play
right.
accordion, Doug.
That could be interesting.
Yeah. I have to get a pool first.
Yep.
So you started with piano, and then accordion became your second instrument. Do you play others, right? I've seen you on guitar.
Yeah, I played clarinet in high school.
Me too. We were just discussing that, actually. I really hate the higher keys, though, and I switched to bass clarinet.
Right.
Because I just didn't like the sound of that noise in my head.
Right. But I guess, you know, if I'm pressed, I still identify as accordion player, and I'm still looking for the proper accordion player pronoun. But
yeah.
I haven't quite found it yet. I'm sure there is one somewhere.
Well, and, you know, when you're left to your own devices and you start noodling around, you give little hints of what like sort of the breadth of your influences and what you're really into. You know, especially things like Bach or something will just peek out occasionally. Where did you get that connection?
Well, when, you know, you get to a certain point in any keyboard instrument, you're going to go there. And I guess I sort of plateaued out on my accordion studies when I asked my teacher if I could play Bach. I was like, I must have been a strange kid, but I wanted to play it on accordion. And starting in on it, I thought at that time that there's no way I'm going to do this stuff justice on accordion. So I went back to piano for a little bit and then sort of quit taking lessons. But yeah, there's something about that music that's compelling, at least to me.
Yeah,
So,
things written for the organ. It's a nice crossover for you, right?
Yeah, actually it is. And later on, I discovered accordions that were built differently, that you actually could play, you know, that kind of music on it. So that brought it back. And then there's sort of like this sort of overlap between like harmonium or music that were written for harmoniums, which were like French pedal organs that they actually used in smaller cathedrals and things where they didn't want to build a big pipe organ. But
so I thought the harmonium was an Indian instrument, because when I went to India, they were using those.
Right. That's why I specified the French harmonium, because the Indians have another instrument that's built like an accordion with one hand and you press the bellows with the other hand, and they do a lot of drone stuff with it.
In crazy time signatures that we'll never understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, so we're just, I mean, honestly, I want to keep asking questions because I don't know the answers to them. Like, we've been friends for a while. We've been in the band Free Range Folk together for, I don't know, 10 years?
Something
what do you think?
like that.
Yeah, let's just call it 10. And I'm still not entirely sure how we met.
And blame your husband.
Where you came from. Like, how did you end up in Jim Thorpe? Like, I know you used to live in the Philadelphia area.
Right.
And you had some, like, musical connections in that.
Yeah, before we had kids, I was playing in a band. Then I sort of stopped, and then really didn't pick it back up seriously until I came back to Jim Thorpe. And Ron Chubb. Well, I was back playing accordion, but I really wasn't playing out much. And Ron Chubb, who has the Black Diamond Gallery in Jim Thorpe, heard Len Brunson saying, "Oh, I'd get back to playing again if I could just find an accordion player." And then he reached out to me, and we got together, and that's really how I started back into playing. And I guess I remember Josh. I remember Free Range Folk from, like, before that, and thought they were interesting.
Because we're amazing, and we're just so famous.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And when Josh asked me if I'd like to play, I was, yeah, absolutely.
You're like, this famous guy, Josh, wants me to play with him.
Well, the music seemed like it would lend itself well to the way I thought about accordion, I guess. So that was the sort of the hook for me.
Even just the name, right? Free Range Folk.
And the name.
You could just sort of wander through there with any instrument that you happen to be holding.
So the New York connection, again, with names. There's this group of players I know, and 4 of them got together to play, like, classical music on accordions, and they used 4 accordions so, it would actually work. And they called themselves Boctopus since they had 8 hands.
That's great.
Well, that's it. And basically because of the name, they got hooked into the mostly Mozart festival that they had every year. And, even like WNBC was like, oh, and there's this group called Boctopus that plays Bach on 4 accordions that, and so, yeah, having a good name is
that's key, right? That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you have something that's memorable like that, and it's just fun to say. And I mean, honestly, like, Free Range Folk kind of implies, like I said, that, like, anybody potentially could be a part of it.
And often are.
And often are. Hi, Uncle Ron. Anyway, but you fit in so well, and we've really, like, I feel like the accordion lends sort of like a Hammond B3 type fullness to the mix, and then you solo so nicely, and now you have one of your own originals too.
Yeah, I mean, the accordion. I mean, one of the roles that you don't think about for an accordion, but it's true if it's played rightly. It can be like the glue that sort of, like, you hardly even hear it, but it's like things would be disconnected unless it was, like, sitting there, under the space, sort of gluing stuff together. So
you're fun to play with.
Thank you.
We like that.
You are too.
So I want to get just I want to talk about, like, you write your own music. You've been sitting in with others, throughout town here and beyond, for many years now. But you also write your own music. You have you are a composer.
Well, thank you. That's something I think, for the most part, other people ought to say about you rather than you claiming it for yourself. But I try for that direction.
Well, and it's been interesting. Like, I was just saying, like, I'm playing bass now with you in Josh Finsel's band, and I'm sitting in a new band after a decade or more and learning a new dynamic and how things go and watching that unfold has been educational for me. And you often speak up and offer, insight about, this part or that part, adjusting it. Like, tell me about the recording of Josh's No Honey album. How much input did you have into the songs?
So this was, I guess there are more or less two forces pulling. One was that, I knew a lot of these songs from being friends with Josh, so it wasn't like, I'd never heard it before and was coming in with a blank slate. And then Dennis has a really, trying to think of the right adjective.
Well,
it's a specific way of working that he likes to work, and I've worked with him before, so I basically knew, what was coming. And then he sort of threw a monkey wrench in his normal approach by bringing a bunch of people together and actually having us play,
yeah.
which normally doesn't happen. But anyway, and then there's usually a couple things that happen. Either Dennis basically has, here's what we're going to do, and that he's, arrived at from working with the artist, and says, I'm looking for this. And then I try to give him the this that he's looking for. Or I get the vocals and the guitar parts, and it's like, I don't know, what do you think? And then, either I find a bunch of lines and throw them all and send them back, or I get an idea and sort of send them a minor arrangement, and then something comes out of it. So yeah, that was sort of a lot of what happened here too.
So you're talking about Dee Patrick, the producer and engineer, one of the producers and engineers on the project, and you have worked with him before. Would you say you guys work well together?
Yeah. Yeah, we do. I think it's a truly Zen experience from the standpoint that, you're going to create, he's going to create this thing, and it may or may not be the thing that you entered into with, but it's going to be a good thing when you come out of it. So yeah, I've had nothing but, good experiences working with Dennis. He's another one that sort of, he knows enough about everything that he can elicit, what he's looking for, which is, always a good thing.
Magical. Because he does it in such a low-key way.
Right.
And
the sound, the sound he gets is just gorgeous too. I know what Josh's guitar sounds like, and then I hear what comes back after, Dennis has worked with it. It's like, damn, how do you do that?
So we were just talking before about all the good toys in his toy box.
Yep.
He knows what tool to use to get the job done, and
Yep.
It's a pleasure working with him. What about Josh? Let's talk about that guy.
Yeah.
So, it's sort of been a, oh God, I don't know why I want to call it a love triangle. The three of you. These are your love children, the songs, and that you've given birth to. I would say the three of you, and probably Mark Platty, have been the biggest influences on shaping, the character of these songs. And in particular, I'd like to call out No Honey itself, the song, the track. Because there's I feel like we have to give you multiple credits on that song. There's if we had to record that live, that exact recording, it would be we'd have to multiply you by 3.
Well, so that was one that came back at the end of the session, and Dennis basically sent it to me again and said, I'm thinking Pink Floyd. And I was like, well, I can do Pink Floyd. And I really thought it was going to be so far over the top that we'd all have a good laugh and that would be it. But apparently it hunted, and he came back and asked me to do a couple more things. And
who did? Dennis or
Dennis
Josh?
did.
Okay.
And then took, I mean, what ended up there, I certainly, did the bass tracks, but, he really took it from somebody putting down some layers that, made a Pink Floydish sound into something that really was, an arrangement that, really worked. So,
well, there's 2 keyboard tracks, right?
At least.
Okay. And then there's a wailing track that reminds me of Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan.
Yeah.
Some like primal yelling.
Yeah. A lot of that got cut, which is probably, not a bad thing.
Oh, come on, I loved it.
But they, so they asked for, what was it, an F sharp Phrygian, wailing sort of thing, which when you play the mode, it invokes like a Middle Eastern mullah prayer call. Mm-hmm. That's sort of what, at least where the mode took me. So it was like, why not? Mm-hmm. And so we did it.
So. Yeah, like I said, I looking in, I know there was a lot of back and forth between you and Josh and Dennis. And what was it like to work with Josh specifically?
So Josh is so if there's it's hard to like talk concretely about stuff like this because you're using words to describe intangibles but Josh I think is, when I think of like the singer-songwriter, I think of Josh because he's working, he's not just working with the music, he's not just working with the lyrics, he's got like a concept where both of those things come together. And that's, to me, when, I'm trying to work with him on that, I'm trying to figure out, what that is and be supportive of that, singer-songwriter, make the music, support the idea that's actually being written about. So,
he's definitely a lyrics guy, and you can't like bury the message or bury the lead with the wrong accompaniment,
Right, and there's some, there's a bunch of stuff that, songs in Latin that, a lot of them, they sound nice. The Latin works. I'm not really sure what it means. I'm not really sure. I want to know what it means because maybe the meaning I have in my head, isn't as words better than, the what the Latin's referring to. But, that's not the case with Josh's music. I think, the poet is driving the mix. And even if he wrote the song because he had a cool guitar lick and the lick drove the lyrics, it's still, it's still the focus of the composition.
Well, and I'll say this, having worked with Josh myself for many years, in a personal and professional capacity, he's always open to changes. He's always fiddling, fiddling around, tweaking things, open to like synergistic changes even, like oh, I didn't mean for that to happen, but that was good. Let's try that
Right.
again, you know. And I'm so much more programmed.
Yeah.
It's he's a guy who's open to collaboration and letting things take shape. And this project is like, it's interesting because, you know, he's been doing that same thing with free range folk for many years. And he's got some of the same characters, but I think there's a distinct shift in energy that's allowing him to take the driver's seat a little bit more.
Well, that's true, and I would agree with that, and I'm sort of, I'm sort of on the composing end, looking for some, approximation of something I hear in my head too, and so there's often less opportunity for outside input to actually, open up the idea more. And I think you're right. I think Josh is more exploring the idea and the musicians that are in the space, and how does this set of people, convey the song. And yeah, I think too that there have been times where he's been willing to make adjustments because, that's where the people in the room, take the expression. So, yep.
Well, I think I just have one more question for you. What was your favorite part of this project? Is there a memory that stands out for you? Just having spent, I don't know, how long was this project? I mean, the better part of a year, 2024, right?
Yep, on and off for a year. Well, it's either got to be No Honey or The Drought. I mean, that's a really special song, and even the first time it came out, you could tell. And then where it ended up was just, phenomenal. So I'll pick The Drought.
So tell me more. Why is that? Is it your favorite track, or is it I was asking like your favorite memory or experience?
I think playing with the group that we're putting together to like play the album is pretty special too. But when we sort of got The Drought fleshed out a bit and sort of heard, how the voices and the instruments went together, yeah, I think that it, music-wise and experientially, I think it was a pretty amazing thing.
Are you talking about
I
how
think
Josh sang it all entirely himself first, and then Ada, his daughter, was brought in?
I think the first time that we had instruments, sort of together on it, sort of at the demo stage, he played it for Sean. And they both, we were like texting back and forth. It's like, I'm not crying, you're crying. No, I'm not crying, you're crying. And yeah, I'm crying now.
Oh, it was so pretty, right? To have him singing with his daughter like that. It's so special.
Yep, pretty amazing.
Oh, I know. And she was just in here today in rehearsal singing it. It was very touching. Definitely tried to etch that one in my mind. Yep. That memory.
So, yep, good stuff.
Well, thanks, Doug.
And all the material, I sometimes, it's the players or the virtuosity or the vocal qualities, but this one, it's definitely the material. The material sort of drove, everything else and made the album what it is. Really good stuff.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to playing it live with you. Woo!
Yep.
Go team. Team Josh.
February 6th. Come and see us.
And on our driveway